Hello, I'm Raymond Mayfield, and it's really great to be with you today. You can find all my videos at rmayfield.com or www.raymondmayfield.com. I have two counseling sites, counselorsofpeace.com and counselorsoftruth.com, and I'd be glad to visit with you over the telephone if you have some needs that I can help you with. I really appreciate you viewing these videos, and if you like them, please share them with someone. I'm going to be talking about David and Goliath. This is one of the finest stories in the entire Bible, and this is an accurate story. A battle is going on between Israel and the Philistines. Jesse, David's father, sends David to the battlefront with some corn and bread and cheese for the Israeli troops, 1 Samuel 17 through 18. And this was to help reinforce them while they were facing a great battle. The Philistines stood on one mountain and Israel on another, with a valley in between, in 1 Samuel 17 and 3. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath. His height was about 6 cubits and a span, or about 9 or 10 feet tall. He had a helmet of brass upon his head. He was armed with a coat with a weight of 5,000 shekels of brass upon his legs and his shoulder, and his spear weighed 600 shekels. And bearing a shield went before him, and someone carrying that for him went ahead of him. And that must have been a very imposing figure. In fact, when he showed up, all of the camps of the army of Israel, they fled, and they frightened them, and they scared them, and that was quite a frightening thing to view, because no man was able to ever come against him and fight him. In the natural, it seemed like an impossible enemy to fight. He stood and he cried to the armies of Israel, "Choose you a man who will fight me." David returned home for some more food, and when he returns, he gets a glimpse of the giant Goliath. And David said, this young lad, this young youth that had a lot of faith, said, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" 1 Samuel 17 and 26. I want to tell you what, the enemy, it makes no difference how big a struggle you're having in your life or how big the enemy is. If you have the Lord on your side, the enemy don't have a chance. And thank God for the victory that overcomes the world, even our faith. David offers to fight the giant. And Saul said, "You're not able to go against the Philistines to fight him, for thou art but a youth, and he is a man of war from his youth." And then David recites to Saul a battle he had with a lion and a bear, and tells us how the Lord delivered him. And that must have been something to be a young man like he was, and to take on a lion and take on a bear with his hands and win that battle. Thank God for this young boy that had a lot of faith. Saul says, "Go and the Lord be with you." And it's more or less saying, Saul saying, "Go on and the Lord better be with you, because you're going out there against a mighty enemy." And David's armor don't even fit, and it don't feel comfortable with him. And he says, "I just don't believe I need this. I'm going to go out there on the battlefield with a sling and 5 smooth stones." And the Philistines said to David, "Am I a dog that thou comest to me with stones?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods, and cursed God, the living God. David's reply, "Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, and I come to thee in the name of the Lord of the host of God and the armies of Israel whom thou hast defiled. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee and take thy head from thee." And David not only tells him that, but he runs out there to meet the giant with his slingshot and brings the giant down. It must have been a strategic shot, but we know the Lord had to direct David and give him even though he was a man and had a great skill with his slingshot, the Lord directed him, and the giant comes tumbling down. And what a wonderful victory for Israel. All the enemy flees. Israel rejoices because they have won a great battle, and because of a great young lad's faith, and because of his unfeigned fear. He had no fear whatsoever of the enemy. And friend, God help us today to be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, and have no fear. And when the enemy comes up against you, use the word of God. Use the sword of the Spirit, and he will strengthen you. If you're not saved today, I would encourage you to kneel and ask Jesus Christ to come into your heart. He is a living God. He wins all battles. He's never lost a battle, and he never will lose one. And this is Raymond Mayfield, and thank you so much for listening to the program today.